Hello all, welcome to my currently inked for the month of February. I have 11 pens inked up. I will go through each of them briefly, and I also wanted to do something a little different since this is February, the month of love and remembrance. I also wanted to show some love to some of the smaller pen creators like myself. So at the end of this video, I will feature some of my favorite smaller YouTube fountain pen stationery journaling creators. Ones that typically have less than 1,000 subs or so, but still provide excellent content. I pretty much subscribe to every pen channel that I've come across, the biggest to the smallest, and I appreciate them all. So stick around for that, or fast forward to the end if you're interested in finding some new pen content that maybe you haven't already subscribed to. So on to the pens for the month of February. And I'm going to be using my black and red notebook. Started making some stickers, learning that. So I have a few here on my favorite black and red notebook. Move this out of the way, zoom in a little bit. And these two inks, the Olive Swirl and the Watermelon Tender Purple, were my favorite inks to use this month. So that's why they're there. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And another thing for the month of February, as far as the pens go, were to show some love to some of the pens that I haven't used in a while. A few of these pens probably have never been seen on this channel, and I hadn't used these maybe in months. I'm going to start with the Esterbrook Jr. And I received this in my Trufe, a collector's box. This is a fine steel. And I was super excited to get this in the Trufe collector's box because I wanted this pen when it first came out. The ink in here is Diamine Spiced Apple. I also wanted to feature some inks that I maybe haven't used at all or very much. So this is a very firm nib, but very nice nib. Other than my vintage Esterbrook's, this is the only Esterbrook that I have, and it's the only modern Esterbrook. I do want to get an SD at some point, but I really don't like the cracked ice look, so at some point, hopefully I'll get an SD. But that's it. Just a Esterbrook Jr. with a fine nib. It's a solid writer. No particular reason for why I don't use it. I just don't reach for it very often. There's a top finial. It's just a solid pen. It's on the small side, but it's very nice. Next pen was one of my first pens, is the Scrivener. And this is the Deep Red Crimson. Bought this off of Amazon. Very smooth pen with nice feedback to it. Perfect feedback. It's a medium steel nib. The ink in here is Otto Oot. Red Roses. Just beautiful ink, pen and ink combination. This pen writes flawlessly. I've never had any issues with this pen, but unfortunately, because I have so many pens, it's not one that I reach for as much as I should. But that's the nib, small nib. A very nice nib. This is a Schmidt nib, I do believe. And it's a pop top cap. There's the finial. Nothing at the end finial. It does kind of move around, but it's okay. Next is a Zezo Incognito. This is actually a limited edition. I have 113 out of 300. I bought this off of Amazon as well. Nothing at the finial there. Kind of plain. Just had this nice pattern under resin. Almost like a carbon fiber-ish type of pattern under the resin. The one thing that this pen does, and hopefully you'll see, sometimes it does it, sometimes it doesn't. This here, the inner cap liner, needs to be glued in properly. So at some point I will need to do that, but I wanted to show that in case you get one of these and you're like, well, what's up? It's because the inner cap liner needs to be either glued or screwed in a little bit more tighter. So that's the Zezo. It does hard start a little bit with this Birmingham Pen Company ink, but once it gets started, it's fine. And this is a very nice writer as well. I haven't had to do anything to either of these pens as far as tuning the nibs or anything. This is a fine steel nib. And the ink in here is Birmingham Pen Company. And this is Oil Beetle. Kind of a deep bluish green ink. All three of these nibs that I've featured so far are all firm nibs. No line weight variation. This does so in reverse. It's a little scratchy, but it will work. So that's the Zezo. And I don't remember how much this costs, but I will say the Zezo pens aren't the cheapest pens out there. They do cost a little bit. So the nib just says Zezo, fine. So that's the Incognito. They have quite a few models on Amazon. A lot of them have the abalone shell patterns, but I may get another one at some point. We shall see. So moving on. Next is one of my beloved cross pens. This is a Cross ATX. This is actually one of my first fountain pens. So Cross. And one thing about my Cross is that there's never any issues with the nib. It never hard starts. The only time it'll hard start is if it's out of ink. This is a fine steel. And the ink in here is Pelican 4001 turquoise. And this is also a nail of a nib, but it's very smooth. Has a kind of a crisp line to it in reverse. But very nice. This is the nib, the small blue nib. And it does have a little bit of a curve there. What a beautiful pen. And it feels great. It has this knurling, but it's very comfortable. And it does oddly have this slick spot here, which I was like, why is that there? I was assuming there was a mistake, but I figured that Cross does offer the engraving and everything, so that's probably why that's there, in case you want to engrave it. But simple finials. Very comfortable pen. It's not slick down here at all. So that's the ATX. Next, we have the Aurora Ypsilon. This was also in my True Fake Collector's box. This is a 14 karat gold nib. This is the only gold nib for the month. So, Aurora Ypsilon. This is a medium, 14 karat. And the ink in here is Tasha Sabi Sabi Midori. And this, although it's a 14 karat, it's also pretty firm. Does pretty good in reverse. A little scratchy, but it doesn't dry out or anything. So this is just a plain Aurora. Nothing too fancy about it. It's a resin pen. It actually kind of reminds me of the Cross Bailey Light. But that's what it feels like, a Cross Bailey Light with a gold nib on it. But it's a very nice writer. So next up we have the Visconti Van Gogh, and this is the Orchards in Blossom. This is probably my favorite. I have 4 others, and this is probably my favorite. And I ink it up with the same Monteverde ink. It has the same bridge clip and finial, top finial with a V. And there it just says Van Gogh and Visconti, Italy. Nice band. It is a magnetic cap. It does post, but not magnetically. There's the nib. Beautiful nib. It's a feed. It's a cartridge converter. All the pens so far that I've shown have been cartridge converter. So this is the Visconti. And one thing I would say about all of my Van Gogh pens, they come with some kind of oily substance on the nib. So they were hard to start initially, so I had to clean them. I also had to, for some of them, clean out the tines, and they're so now. This one is good. So this is Orchards in Blossom. It's a fine nib. I feel like it's a very very thick fine. I can't seem to talk and write at the same time. The ink in here is Monteverde Rose Noir. It's a nice feedback, and also it does have a little bounce to it. So you will get some line weight variation with this. That's the Visconti Van Gogh, Orchards in Blossom. Beautiful rose gold. So you have some pinks in there, some grays, a little yellow. Very, very beautiful. I am doing my currently inked a few days early. Normally I like to do it around the end of the month. But I have 2 pens coming on Tuesday, so I want to do an unboxing of those. So I pushed this up. So that is the ink that we have for those. And for these, it's the Spiced Apple and Red Roses and the Oil Beetle. So moving on to the next pen, and I haven't used this pen also in ages. This is the Monteverde Ritma. I have 3 Monteverde Ritmas. So Monteverde Ritma. And the reason why I haven't used this in ages is because it's a broad steel nib. The ink in here is the beautiful Diamond Inkvent 2022 Olive Swirl. I love this ink. So this is also a firm nib, but very wet nib, as you can see. So this is very nice broad, very smooth, scratchy in reverse, but this is a very nice pen. It's just the only thing is that, like I said, I don't write with broads very often, but it goes very well with this ink. That's the Ritma. That's the black nib. Feed. It's a cartridge converter filler. Do I have a converter in here? I'm not sure what I have in here. No, I just have a cartridge. It posts nicely. It's a magnetic. It's not, I don't find it to be back heavy at all. I just don't post it. And I've had this pen for a while, and although I don't use it very often, the magnet is still very strong. So this is a pen, very beautiful green. The Ritma. Pretty inexpensive pen for what you get. And this is a Schaefer. I have a few Schaefer 100s. Not a pen that I find to be very inspiring, but they are solid performers. So this is the Schaefer 100. This is Friends of Winter. I think this is a special edition. And this is a medium steel. And the ink that I have in here is Waterman Intense Black. Little Skippy. But a very good performer, very good pen. Scratchy and reversed. A little hard starting there. I have a cartridge in there. But that's the Schaefer. You see there. It's a nice nib. I like this the look of their nibs. And the feed. Very pretty bulky feed that it has. And the pattern. Some Japanese writing there. I assume it's Japanese. But yep, it's a Schaefer 100 Friends of Winter. And one of my favorites that I hadn't picked up in a while is the Conklin Mark Twain Crescent Filler. There's the nib on that one. This is one of the nicest writers that I have in my collection. It's a simple, nice, usable clip. And it just says, what does it say here? Conklin Mark Twain. This is so smooth. Conklin Mark Twain. Crescent filler. This is a medium steel. And the ink in here is another Waterman. It's tender purple. Pretty wet. It's also in reverse. But it's just such a nice pen to write with. I may hold this over for March as well. Of course, the filling system, it uses a sack, so you move this part over here when you want to fill it, and just push this little crescent down, you know, dip it in the ink, push it down to fill it up. I don't find it to be much of a pain to fill or to clean. You just keep pumping it to clean it and fill it. So this is the ink. There is the olive swirl. You can see all the sheen there. Nice shading as well. And the watermelon tender purples, almost like a blue-black almost. I'm sorry, intense black. And there's the tender purple. Beautiful, wet purple. So my last two. This is the Quaco Dia 2. I had this for quite a bit, but I haven't used it very much. Here's the little nib. And Quaco Dia 2. Nice infinial there. Same on the top. Does post nicely. Doesn't back weight it, in my opinion. So this is a medium steel nib. The ink in here is Visconti. It's Van Gogh. Ooh, Van Gogh. Sunflowers. Fairly wet. Again, another nail of a nib. No line weight variation, but it does put down a good amount of ink. It's also in reverse. So this is a solid pen. Nice full-size Quaco. I have a converter in here. I'm not sure if this converter is the right one or not. It doesn't seem to fit very well. It's very tight. So, but it's been working. I think my nib is loose. But that's the Quaco Dia. The only other, I have a Supra that's full-sized and a Perkeo. And what's the other one? The Student. Those are my other full-size Quacos. And lastly, the Pininfarina PF1. This was one of my True Faith pens of the month. So this is the Pininfarina. And this was pretty much love at first sight. I love this pen. This is a medium steel nib. The ink in here is another diamond ink pen. This is Serendipity. Pretty wet. The nib does have some bounce to it, but that's about as much line weight variation as I can get. It's okay in reverse. It's a thin pen. Like this section is super thin, but I find it to be, you know, because it's has sections here. It's not round, just like the pen, so it provides me with a good grip. So that's an Infinio. It's kind of a minimalist pen, but the clip, if you want to clip it onto something, you have to slide the clip over, which I never do. But so that says Pininfarina. I think their pens are car inspired. That's the Pininfarina. That's my pens for the month of February. So now I'm going to get on to my favorite smallish YouTube creators. Like I said, most of the creators have less than 1,000 subscribers. So I just wanted to give them a little shout out and some appreciation for the content that they were producing. The first is Jane of JP Pen and Ink. She comes out with the regular videos, and she has the most beautiful, soothing voice. She's always, "Hello, Jane here." I can't imitate her Aussie accent, but I find it to be very soothing and relaxing. So I really enjoy her videos. Next, we have Eugene Borson. Hopefully I'm saying Eugene's name right. I think Eugene is Canada-based, and the thing I like about Eugene is that he does pen reviews, but he also includes a drawing at the end. And now he's also making pens, so check him out. Very interesting channel, very diverse collection of pens. Next we have Sarah with Fountain Pen Insanity. She has a beautiful collection of pens, particularly I love her vintage collection. And she is a karateka like myself, so we both practice karate or are practicing karate. So we have that in common as well. Just love her collection. Next, there is the Pen Connection with Kendall. Kendall changed the name of his channel, but he does very good pen and journal reviews, and he also did a video where he attempted to make some ink. I found that video very fascinating. I think he was using some kind of husk or some kind of dead nut that was in his yard. So he gathered them all up and cooked them down and made ink out of it. He didn't seem too happy about his what he made, but I was very impressed with it. Next, there's Monica with Writer Always Right, another relaxing, low-key pen reviewer. She also provides tutorials, pen-related tutorials, like how to refill your cartridge, your empty cartridge. And she also provided like a dictionary of terms, reference terms regarding fountain pens. So very helpful information, just nice pen reviews as well. Next is Journal with Tiff. She does pen, ink, and stationery reviews. I really like her ink swatching videos. And also the next one, Pause with the Pen. I also particularly like her ink swatching videos as well. She also does some handwriting practice videos. And then next, I'm not sure how to say this name, but it looks like to me, Serial Nana. She does journaling, pen and ink videos. She has a nice Esterbrook collection, so check her out. Fountain pens and inks. She has a beautiful collection as well. She has a lot of pens, a lot of very beautiful, colorful pens. I really enjoy watching her videos. Maria Rosso, she also has a beautiful collection of pens and inks. She does a lot of swatching videos. She actually almost made me buy the Monte Grappa that I think she recently bought. It's all black, sleek. I had it in my cart and I just took it out. It's like, ew, I wanted it so bad, but it was a little pricey, so I let that one slide. Next we have Dan Williams. He has a diverse collection of pens, and he has humor, nice dry humor that I appreciate. And lastly, there's Let's Talk About Fountain Pens, or Let's Talk Fountain Pens, and he does a lot of vintage pen restoration. So I dabble in restorations as well, so I appreciate the content there. There are two people that I almost forgot. First is Katie's Fountain Pen Awakening. Katie's an Aussie that produces excellent currently inked and new pen day videos, so check out Katie. And lastly, my pen bud Marissa. Marissa doesn't have a YouTube channel, but I've been trying to convince her to do YouTube because she has a very large, very beautiful collection of fountain pens, and she's also a restorer, so she fixes fountain pens. She's very good at that, I must say. And although she's not on YouTube, she is on Instagram, where she posts daily watercolor drawings. She's an excellent watercolor artist, so check out Marissa or Mad Pugger on Instagram. And these aren't all, I mean, I watch so many, but I just wanted to focus on like the smaller channels, just to show them some appreciation. So that's all I have. I hope you guys all had a great February. I will see you hopefully in a couple of days for some new pins. So thank you for watching. Take care.